Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the Fetterman-Oz debate, of course, last night in Pennsylvania. It lived up to expectations. Let me recap for those that didn't get to watch it live, etc. I will be talking about it at least some as well in today's live stream. Link in the description, not archived, this is just a poll that's been put up. There was a snap poll right after the debate that showed Mehmetoz was believed to have won the debate by over 80% of the people that watched. This contrasts a little bit with what the critics, it's sort of like going to Rotten Tomatoes and looking at a woke movie, and the critics absolutely adore it, and everyone in the audience fucking hates it. And then you have to sort of, go through and figure out, is it disgruntled dogpiling of the ratings, or is it genuinely a shitty movie and the critics are just trying to, fortify the numbers and get more people to go watch it or something like that. And both happen, by the way. Looking at it from the nonpartisan perspective that I have, of course, I'm not really enamored to Mehmetoz, to be clear. Fetterman did lose. The problem is that it's so late in the game and he does have the slight polling advantage. Will this actually give the election to Oz over Fetterman? I'm not sure. We still need the last round of polling. It could be that they move by a point or two. That's probably the number of undecided voters represented amongst that total that are even going to watch the debate and aren't simply going to be late breakers and flip a coin or something. I would tend to believe they will break for Oz, but at high enough numbers, I'm not sure. It's basically a 50-50 race at this point. Fetterman had the advantage for months, but as he went into public more and more after his stroke and made more and more obvious errors, which he did in this debate as well, and including in his opening statement in the first couple of sentences, saying, "Hello everyone, good night." Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What a pitch. I think that there's a bigger problem, though. One is actually on policy, which is that Fetterman has decided to do a 180 on fracking. He was against it before he was for it in his case. He was a strong opponent of fracking. Now, because of the energy prices and stuff, of course, Pennsylvanians getting hammered, he's done a 180. The problem is that in some ways, his inconsistency on that and other issues don't really matter so much. Normally, having that kind of inconsistency in a campaign, you'd think of John Kerry, who was memed for being a flip-flopper back in the day when he was running against W in 2004. Normally, that takes precedence. It's something that people care about. But when the person is stumbling through every other sentence, that kind of distracts them. I don't know that Fetterman takes a hit on his 180 on energy policy. I don't know that he takes a hit for endorsing Biden in 24 and saying, yeah, hell yeah, I'd support him. Which is a bad idea because down-ballot Democrats are avoiding even mentioning Biden like he's a goddamn leper at this point. He's a complete pariah within his own party outside of safe blue districts because he's not supported in any of the competitive areas, Pennsylvania included. Also, that's counterbalanced by Mehmetoz saying, yeah, he would support Trump. Again, while Trump has legendary amounts of in-party support, he still does suffer from a lull in independent support. So it's really which one is more disapproved of, Biden among potential voters for Fetterman or Trump among potential Mehmetoz voters. Probably advantage Oz because he was endorsed by Trump to begin with, so if someone's climbed on board his campaign, I don't think that's necessarily a deal breaker. But again, looking at this debate, it's really a tale of one thing and one thing only. This is where Fetterman really took the L during the debate. A refusal to release his medical records. He says, I had a stroke, but I'm recovering, and, it doesn't appear that there is a substantial recovery over the last few months, but it takes time. The problem is twofold. Number one, if Fetterman really did just have aphasia, that is, he has difficulty understanding language and responding, and he mushes words together, but it's not a big problem. There's no brain damage or anything. If he has not been further impaired, there would be no reason for him not to release his medical records. And people watching the debate will possibly take note of that, if they're undecided. Of course, most people at this point are not. Another reason I don't think this has a huge impact on the trajectory of the race in Pennsylvania for the Senate. And Pennsylvania is still partially honk-honk fortified, so keeping that in mind as well, Mehmetoz has to fight with one arm tied behind his back. So we will be weighing in on the final round of polling from that perspective with regards to chicanery and shenanigans, perhaps. I will say no more because this video is posted on YouTube, and YouTube has a naughty list a mile long at this point of people who ask inconvenient questions for the uniparty system. So we'll just leave it at that. I don't know that it has a huge outsized impact. The medical issue, really, as far as the aphasia, which he does have, I mean, he can show that every time he speaks. I don't think people care. It might be meme-worthy or something. It could affect his function as a senator if he's giving a speech, if he's trying to understand complex legalese, literature, and plow through that and figure out, do I fucking support this bill or not? I don't even know what the fuck I'm reading. That could be a problem. The bigger problem is he's not willing to disprove. He's claiming that I don't have any further damage to my brain and I'm expected to make a full recovery. But you're not willing to show proof that the doctors believe that that's actually the case. And that's another reason why Mehmetoz is now roughly even with John Fetterman in the polling there, when Fetterman had a double-digit lead originally. Mehmetoz really did not have a hardened core of support. This is another reason why Mehmetoz goes into the election with a slight disadvantage. A large proportion of his support didn't climb on early because, wow, he got Trump's endorsement. I love him, great guy. Wow, Mehmetoz, so well-spoken, such a great guy. It's not because of that. It's reluctant Mehmetoz voters, probably mainly independents, that are going to vote for him because they fear Fetterman because of his cognitive issues. Or his views on the economy, or the economy in general. Biden seeping down ballot, of course. The problem is, are those people enthused to vote for Mehmetoz? No, they're not. They're reluctant voters. They may not dislike the dude, but they're not gung-ho. They're not the kind of people that are absolutely, genuinely, 100% objectively, I can prove I'm definitely going to vote. I would drag my balls through a landmine field in order to get to the polls. That's core Trump voters, core Biden voters, leftoids, people like that. It's not the independent voting bloc, generally speaking. You're going to have lower turnout among that group of people. Again, unless they're fear voters. They fear a worse economy, or they fear that they're going to have a senator who can't give a speech on the Senate floor without making Pennsylvania a laughingstock. By the way, there is an absolutely perfect dovetailing that you can do with this race between this and the gubernatorial race within Arizona. Katie Hobbs makes a similar excuse for not wanting to debate. She, unlike Fetterman, who had a fucking literal stroke, he's willing to get on the debate stage. Katie Hobbs still refuses to debate Kari Lake. The excuse given is that it would be an embarrassment to the people of Arizona. Fetterman, if he goes to the Senate, will embarrass the people of Pennsylvania. Yet he still decided to go debate. I guess that's one up for Fetterman. He has an advantage over Katie Hobbs. This is reflected in polling, by the way. It's almost like they took up two different views. Fetterman said, well, look, I can debate and probably make a fool of myself and lose, or I can look like a coward and a recluse by not debating. I think I'll debate. Katie Hobbs looked at it and said, well, I can debate and lose handily. I know that I will because Kari Lake, TV broadcaster, very verbose. She's got that sassy sort of attitude thing too. Katie Hobbs is not a very good public speaker. I can look like a coward and lose support thereby, or I can debate, lose, and lose support in that manner. It's basically a function of you had to weigh those two and see which was less bad. Fetterman decided debating was less bad because he can always count on the legacy media to circle the wagons and say that people critical of his debate performance are ableist. And prediction fulfilled. I said days ago that would happen. There would be wagons circling and they would say, well, he didn't do that bad. Well, his critics are all just ableist. Yeah, but Mehmetoz is basically Drumpf, so, Fetterman for the win. That's exactly what's happening. Katie Hobbs took up a different rationale. I think Fetterman actually made the right decision. It's better to get up on stage, not look like a coward, and maybe deflect on the medical issue while showing, the people watching that you are not cognitively normal. You do have, at the very least, significant verbal issues and issues understanding spoken language. That's better, I think, than being an outright coward. The legacy media, even in Arizona right now, is dogpiling Katie Hobbs, and it ain't just coming from the right wing, just to be clear. Overall, rating this debate, Mehmetoz deflected. Fetterman got in his one-liners and jabs too, which, kudos to him. You were capable of keeping it together long enough to deliver a couple of punches. I think overall, though, Mehmetoz gets the advantage here, but it's actually underwhelming. Because people aren't going to focus on the more meaningful issues. They're going to be focused on 10-second TikTok clips of Fetterman saying something off the chain. It'll be conceived of as more amusing than anything else. And then you have those other disadvantages that Oz has. It is counterbalanced, though, somewhat, and this is why the race is so difficult to predict, because Fetterman's coalition isn't necessarily that strong either. A lot of people that are voting for him, it's not because they're pro-Fetterman. I have a feeling that his core coalition is even smaller, arguably. But there are a lot of people who say, well, Mehmetoz wants to ban all abortion. Mehmetoz is basically, he's going to help Trump get reelected, and they're afraid of that. So that's my analysis. Slight advantage to Oz, but, you know, it's a 50-50 race with the trajectory moving towards him anyway, with a slight advantage, though, coming into it for Fetterman, and you've only got 2 weeks to go to the midterms. I have a feeling they're going to be basically tied on election night. I might not even be able to make a coherent prediction. I'll just flip a coin on the live stream, and then I'll judge which one wins based on the coin flip. That's what I'll do. That's about all. Peace out.